Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Fariya Bukhari from Pak Islam Party. I would like to talk about Kashmir today again in the aftermath of the elections that were boycotted by majority of Kashmiris. Kashmir is finding itself in a state of extreme violence that's inflicted upon it by the Indian soldiers, and the aggression is actually record-breaking. We are seeing casualties, we are seeing martyrs, we're seeing little children being killed and shot at just because they were pelting stones. And this is a very inhumane conduct being done by Modi's government, who claim that they're very humanitarian and they're doing it in the name of defense, when the reality is that even a fifth grader knows that you do not need a bullet to respond to a stone. So I think this was a huge victory for Kashmir, who boycotted all the Indian orchestrated elections and proved to the world that Kashmir does not belong to India. And if there was a referendum or a plebiscite or anything today, India will lose. And United Nations knows about it. However, United Nations is not interested in bringing ceasefire or de-escalation of violence at this point. That's why we are hardly seeing any kind of movement from the United Nations Human Rights Organization part. Amnesty International recently released a statement condemning the escalation of violence in Kashmir, the indiscriminate extrajudicial killings, and want the violence to stop, the violence that is done not by the Kashmiris, but by the Indian government against the Kashmiris. And I would like to give Amnesty International a medal if I had one for this, because they're probably the only humanitarian organization that have stood up for Kashmir. And they have done that in spite of being penalized, in spite of being persecuted by the Indian government and the Indian extremist organizations. But here's my point. I don't think Kashmir is any more a region problem or a water problem. It is no longer a war over water or region. I think now we are dealing with fascism. We are dealing with a fascist ideology that is unfortunately the driving force behind the current escalation of violence. This kind of escalation of violence has not been seen for a while in Kashmir. And what we are seeing in the form of cow vigilante groups that are actually hitting tourists, they're hitting Muslims, and they have unfortunately persecuted, oppressed the minorities in the name of trying to save their cows, when at the same time Indian government's leading export is that of beef. So you look at the double standards. We have the cow vigilante groups in India that are inflicting violence and creating a havoc over consumption of cow, or even the idea, if someone had an idea, if there was a rumor that this person was going to consume cow or wanted to have cow, the cow vigilante group would come and literally hit him and beat him up or beat her up in the name of religion, in the name of holiness. And they even hit a tourist, a Caucasian tourist woman on the beach, who was trying to have a cow go away from, from where she was, and they literally beat her up. So this is fascism. India is in the grip of fascism, and this fascism is bred by Modi, who's the byproduct of this fascism. And I did a video by the name of Balochistan, and if you can look in the archives, you can find that video. But what we're dealing with today in Kashmir is no longer a war over water or region. It is war because of fascism. What we're dealing with right now, the violence, the killings, the kidnappings, the physical molestation, the mental harassment, and unfortunately the high turnover of martyrdoms of young youth civilians of Kashmir who have not done anything violent to incite this kind of a response from the Indian army. And the Indian government has given full immunity to their soldiers to do whatever they want to Kashmir right now, as long as they keep the Kashmiri movement in control and keep it from getting liberated. And like I said before, I think if this was Congress or any other Indian political party in government right now, Pakistan, India would have been sitting at the table in the presence of Kashmiris trying to figure out a non-violent solution to Kashmir. But because what we are dealing with today is fascism, what we're dealing with today is an extremist ideology manifested by the BJP government that is being harbored by RSS organization. We are today facing extreme amount of persecution and oppression against the Kashmiri civilians. And so we all know what is the solution to fascism. You cannot reason with fascism. You cannot even, try to put some sense into fascism. So unfortunately, what I am feeling right now is I am very sorry to say that, because I have tried to look for a very peaceful, non-violent solution to Kashmir all this time. And I'm still promoting that. I would still want India, Pakistan to sit together and have a face-to-face talk in the presence of the Kashmiri Hurriyat leaders to find a peaceful solution to this conflict. However, in spite of offering multiple times dialogue and peaceful talks, Modi's government has rejected. And the only reason they would reject that would be because of fascism, because fascism does not listen to reason. Fascism has one agenda, one goal, and fascism works in that direction, even if it has to kill millions and millions of civilians. The history is full of such incidents and such events. We talk about Hitler. We talk about so many episodes that have happened in history where fascism took control of everything and did not listen to reason, did not listen to rationale. It had just one agenda. It was a blind ideology that led eventually to annihilation, to destruction, to a catastrophe. But here's what the problem is, that today Pakistan and India are both nuclear countries. We are no longer a non-nuclear area. We are a highly charged, very emotional nuclear region. And so this could be the predecessor of, unfortunately, apocalypse. And if we did not put an end to this kind of a fascist ideology, we are looking at an apocalypse. We're looking at an armed conflict, face to face, between Pakistan and India. And this is coming pretty soon, because the sequence of events is happening very fast. What we are seeing is one thing after another. It's like a line of dominoes falling one after another upon each other. And I do not see any movement. I do not see even a single motion from the Indian civilians. They are so intimidated by this fascism that has totally undone their campaign for peace, their campaign for Gandhiism, their campaign for non-violent solutions. And it is amazing how inert the Indian civilians are in response to this kind of madness. There are only two ways to solve the Kashmir conflict today. Number one, the Indian civilians get up and take the government back in their hands as their democracy dictates and get rid of the fascist ideology that is driving their government policies in Kashmir. That is the number one solution and the best solution for Kashmir and for the world. Number two is war. Unfortunately, a war between India and Pakistan, like any other region, if a war happens, you either win or you lose. You just go into it because fascism does not respond to reason. Fascism does not respond to rational. And this is exactly what we are seeing in Kashmir today. We are seeing fascism. We are not seeing a war. We're not seeing a conflict based upon an ambition to have more land, an ambition to have more control over a region, an ambition for water reserves. No, we are looking at a fascist ideology. The Kashmiri Pandits, the RSS organization, are to blame for this fascist ideology. What happened in the recent elections proved that if there's a plebiscite or a referendum in Kashmir today for the United Nations resolutions, India is going to lose big time. Kashmiris are not with India. They do not want India to take over their land or their resources. They want India to go away, to end this occupation, to end this invasion of their land. So I think it is imperative for Indian civilians to take a stance, to stand up, to stop being so inert and so desensitized, and take the forefront and bring Pakistan and bring Kashmiri Hurriyat leaders on a conference table with them. And if Modi does not agree, if RSS does not agree, then they should not give up. Their democracy dictates that they decide what the government does, not that they do what the government wants them to do. Right now, with the Cow Vigilante group going crazy in India, with lynching of minorities in the name of cow saving episodes, we are looking at a fascist India. And the only way India can get rid of fascism, India can come back to what it was, what it portrays itself to be, is if it makes its democracy work. There is also a big concern that the recent elections were hijacked. They were hacked, and Modi is not even the rightfully democratic leader of India right now. He was actually elected not by the Indian people, but by someone else, by a foreign agency. And I'm surprised that India is allowing foreign agencies to have Modi get away with this. So I think it is very important for the Indian civilians to get up and try to do something about it before what happened to Germany happens to them as well. Because when fascism does not listen to reason and rational, then war is what is left. And we do not want war. Pakistan does not want war with you guys. And I know you guys do not want war with us. But if we had to, if this kind of violence continued, I can guarantee you, we're talking about a month, 3-4 weeks, a war is coming. This is my guarantee. Unless you got up and tried to do something about it to prevent this fascism from overtaking your future. Thank you.